So as I'm sure you're all aware by now, the Chaos Dwarves are coming very, very soon, and their DLC has been listed on Steam for an astonishing £20. And while that isn't exactly a down payment on a Lambo or anything completely insanely expensive, it's still £5 more for one faction less when you compare it to something like the Vampire Counts, which, if you're not that great at maths, is a 25% price increase, so pretty significant. Now this is all if you ignore inflation, but even if you take into account inflation using some calculator I found on the first page of Google, you're still paying a premium of £2 over what it should be compared to the previous race pack of the Vampire Coast. So come on, do you really think that I'm going to make an entire rant video over £2? Of course I am. Have you ever heard the saying, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile? This £2 is that inch, and the only justification we've had for it is a CA post that basically says, oh, it's going to be worth it, and the source is, trust me, bro. And before we get too deep into this, I should state a couple of things to the court. I'm, of course, partnered with CA, and what exactly does this mean? It means I get slightly earlier access to some bits of news and DLC content before it comes out to the public. It means that I can just make videos on them, which is beneficial for me and the channel. This video being recorded on Sunday, the 19th of March, and at this time, I do not have any early access to any early DLC. I can't play the Chaos Dwarves right now. I have no idea about anything more than the public knows. All that I know about the DLC is currently public, so this isn't coming from some, like, back room where I just know everything about the DLC. Okay? Legal stuff out the way. And lastly, I just want to say this video isn't being made to just crap all over CA, but instead it's just to point out why this is concerning to me and a couple of reasons about why it could be happening. So if anyone at CA is watching this, I hope that you just take this as the criticism that it is rather than some weird legal assault that I'm trying to launch on the company. That being said, if you are from CA, you might not want to stick around because chances are you're probably not going to like anything that I have to say in this video. So let's kick things off with the now infamous message on the Total War Community Discord from content manager Gobbo King. Now, I'm not going to break down every single word of this message because it's already been done on Reddit, and they did a pretty decent job of it. But this is the aforementioned trust me, bro. It basically just says nothing. It's all just PR speak that's trying to calm down the community without really saying anything. And the source, again, is trust me, bro. Like, we think that this is worth it. We think that this is going to be a freaking awesome DLC, which is the actual wording. A little bit cringed there, but, you know, there's nothing illegal about that. But to this time, they haven't showed us anything, so all we've got to go off is the source of trust me, bro. Now, there's no way around it. 3 lords is less than 4, and £20 is more than £15. So you're paying more money for less lords, and let's be honest, the lords are the content. Now, there's talk that these 3 lords are going to be so different that it's going to justify this price. And I think we can all agree that in the Vampire Coast, Count Noctilus, Luther Harkon, all the lords play more or less the same. Yes, they have different starting locations and different faction effects, but for the most part, you're playing the exact same faction, just a starting location, so who you're fighting against early on changes a little bit and who your main army is with. Compare that to something like Throt and Ikit Claw, they are completely different sub-factions within the same race. So if the Chaos Dwarves are more like the Skaven, then absolutely, I could see that price justification being well worth it because that would require a ton more work to make them feel so incredibly different. As I've said, I haven't yet played this content, so I can't say whether or not this is true or whether or not this will happen, but I'm going to maintain a stance of severe skepticism because not once has this happened in the history of the game, so if they do it, I'll be very impressed and very surprised. Now, if we look back to the latest DLC, which was the Champions of Chaos, we got all 4 lords from the 4 branches of Chaos, so should be completely different and should have been with their own monogod factions, but I digress. But all of them play pretty much the same apart from some watered down mechanics from the monogod factions and some limitations in what units you can use and upgrade using the Warriors of Chaos systems. Plus, I really just do have to come back to 3 being less than 4 because, you know, I didn't do much better in maths than that. Now we're getting 3 legendary lords and the legendary Noblar hero, and again, I think we can all agree that legendary heroes are not even remotely close to being the same content value as legendary lords. Heroes can either sit in an army or move around the campaign map performing certain actions. They can't run their own faction, they can't even lead their own armies, they can't even have a quest battle because they can't lead their own armies, they don't have mechanics, they don't have anything else, they're very limited in what they can do and what CA can do with them. You can make a hero as interesting as you want, give them all sorts of buffs for an army, which it sounds like this Noblar hero is going to do. You can give them unique actions to perform on the campaign map, but you know what you could just do? Make them into a lord, and then they have those unique things that they can do in the map, or those unique things that they can do for their army, but they can also have a faction to go along with it, so you've got something actually different to play. So with all that being said, I have to admit, I'm pretty curious as to what this legendary hero is going to do, because CA seems to think that he's worth the same as a lord, so If he is, I'm going to be very impressed and very surprised at how they've managed to pull that off. If I get into game and he's really that unique and that different and adds so much gameplay and depth to the game that he's worth replacing a Lord, I will happily eat my words with a side order of being very wrong. Now, aside from paid content, each DLC also obviously comes with a bunch of free content, or free LC. Now, I'm not going to pretend that every single race pack has come with a full faction rework, because they just haven't. Those are normally reserved for when a Lord pack is coming out. Say, when the one and the Paunch came out, we got the full Greenskins rework because we're getting a Greenskins Lord with that race pack, so not Lord pack, sorry, so it kind of made sense. But the rumored free LC, which hasn't officially been announced by CA, but it got rumored by some news outlets, so, you know, we are allowed to talk about that, is another hero that will be available to the Empire and Kislev. So just mentally copy and paste what I literally just said about heroes. Anything else, they're very limited in what they can do. Okay, cool. So again, let's compare that to the Vampire Coast as they were the last race pack that was in Warhammer 2. Of course, we've got the Ogres, but the Day 1 DLCs, they don't really count. So alongside their release, we got a soft rework for the Vampire counts with the faction mechanic of the Bloodlines. We got Heinrich Kemmler, who got moved to his own new starting location, got a couple of new faction effects, some changes to himself. So kind of a new Legendary Lord there, though not really a new Legendary Lord, just a new one that's moved. So you can play him as a little bit different, but, you know, not completely new. We'll give him, you know, the benefit of the doubt there. And then also, we got Loki Felhart for the Dark Elves. He was a completely new Lord, new start, new faction effects, kind of played a little bit different, add some new mechanics, nothing crazy, but still different gameplay to the base Dark Elves. Now let me be clear, all of this content was pretty basic. I'm not going to deny that. You know, the Vampire Counts rework, I have shat all over it for years. It is very disappointing. The Bloodlines do not offer enough gameplay to be called a rework. They are just a additional mechanic that was added. But, you know what they are better than? Nothing. And that's what we're getting with the Chaos Dwarves DLC. We're getting a hero, and that's it. So far, we haven't heard anything else about any other free LC, and I don't know if we will. If we do, again, I'll happily be wrong and eat my words, but at the moment, all we know that we're getting is a hero, and that does not replace two new Lords and a new faction mechanic for a previous old faction. So in this DLC, we're not just getting one less Lord than usual, we're getting 3 less Lords than a DLC which came out 5 years ago, and instead we're getting 2 heroes. Now, I don't know if someone at CA is like a big hero lover and thinks that they're somehow equal to Lords in terms of gameplay, because I think we can all say that they're just simply not. As I've said, they require you to be playing as a Lord to use them, and I used at the same time as a Lord, so they don't really offer anything unique because you can just use them at the same time as a Lord, whereas if they were their own Lord with their own faction, that would be unique. Most of the time, legendary heroes have a pretty minimal effect on the campaign. As I said, you've used them in the armies, or you can use them on the campaign map. And there are legendary heroes like Gorich and Ariel from the Wood Elves that are extremely powerful, and when used in armies or on the campaign map, really change the way that the game is going and can give you a significant advantage. But they're still just legendary heroes that are used alongside a faction. It's kind of like, instead of getting extra cakes, like instead of getting 4 cakes, these 4 legendary Lords, we've got 3 cakes, but they put sprinkles on them. Which, you know, it does improve the cakes, but, you know, I'm paying more than I did for the 3 cakes, so surely I should be getting 4 or even 5. I mean, they even made Vlad and Isabella into their own heroes for their own factions, so you're missing out on another legendary Lord when you're playing as the Vampire Counts, at least one of those 2. And yes, I know that was done because the reinforcement thing has changed, so they're not actually fighting at the same time, you have to wait for them to reinforce and stuff, but having at least the choice to do it would be nice. Now, this lack of free DLC content is doubly concerning because not everyone buys the DLC, but I would say most regular players of Total War Warhammer come back whenever there is a free DLC update, even if they're not going to buy the new content, because, you know, there's new free DLC, there's stuff that breathes new life into the game, there's maybe new factions to play, there's new mechanics for previous factions, the map has changed significantly, but with this, there's just not really anything. Without a new Lord to play, are those people that don't buy the DLC going to come back and dive back into the game and have a little play around? I'm not too sure. And the problem with that is, if you don't keep their interest, they're going to slowly forget about it, eventually uninstall Warhammer 3, and then when the next DLC comes out, unless they are seriously interested in it, they're probably just going to be like, I'm not really that bothered, I haven't played it in so long, what's this going to do that's going to pull me back? And that is how you lose your fan base over time. Because let's be honest, not everyone wants to play the Chaos Dwarves. Most players are excited, but not everyone wants to play. Say you're waiting for the Halflings, like I am. If the Chaos Dwarves don't interest you and the free DLC doesn't interest you, you might forget about the game, then Halflings come down the line and you're not even paying attention, so you don't care. Anyway, let's take a step back for a moment and completely ignore the content argument and look at some other reasons for this price hike. Now, everyone can scream about inflation and prices for everything going up, and I'm not going to pretend like I'm some economics genius who knows how everything is interconnected and why the prices of everything are going up and why it isn't just evil capitalist overlords But the price of this DLC isn't reliant on parts or ingredients. Say you're making a cake, if the price of butter goes up, I think butter goes into cakes, then the price of your cake will have to go up to accommodate, for the price of butter to maintain your profit margins, because that's how things work. But the only resources consumed in the making of this DLC, apart from like maintenance of PC parts and server costs and all that stuff, is the wages of the developers. So that being said, has the expenses of the developers gone up? Have they hired more? Have they increased the wages of the ones they do have to accommodate for the cost of living crisis? I should hope they have, because, they kind of need to. And I can't say this for sure. I don't work at CA. I don't know any devs at CA. I ain't got like some secret contact that's feeding me all this information, but I can look at public information, which I found on the first page of Google. The only resource I could find, which is Glassdoor, if you look on there, it says that the average programmer gets around £40,000 a year from Creative Assembly. And on the first page of Google, if you Google the average wage of a programmer in the UK, 40,000 is definitely on the lower end of that. So I'm just going to leave that one there. It's on the lower end, so, it's whatever. Also, while we're getting all economical, you can actually look at financial records of CA. If you want, they're all public. If you want, I'm not digging this up. This isn't private information. This is public information that you can find if you just go into Google and look at their information on the old government's website. Gotta love public information, folks. It looks like their profit is down 2 million from this time last year, and while it's not a publicly traded company, the over company, which is Sega, which owns them, is going to be breathing down their necks. Like, you need to increase this profit margin, otherwise, Big Daddy Sonic is going to come punch until all of your coins are all over the floor. Or rings. It's rings, isn't it? So yeah, whoever's in charge of CA probably has Sonic breathing down their neck to increase profits, and this will 100% factor into that decision. That'll be one of those factors the community team went on about. I'm sure they'll share that one publicly. Now, the other and final reason why this price is so high, and there is no way to say this without being almost comedically blunt, they know that we're going to pay for it. Now think about it. Every single time a DLC for Warhammer is released, it hits the top sellers of Steam. Every single time. Now the Steam spring sale is on right now, so a lot of games are on sale, and people are buying a lot of stuff. There's going to be a lot of popular games that are being bought up that are on a severe discount, and even with that, the Chaos Dwarves, with just their baseline early access, not early access, their, what do you call it, like day one discounts, they're still on that top sellers. It's not right at the top, but they are up there enough that they're probably selling pretty decently. Now, if you combine that with the fact that it has been 6 months and a very long feeling 6 months, we've had no new content, we've had minimal updates to the game. Fun fact, I still play Heroes of the Storm, and this year, 2023, that game, which is on live support, so no more development, has had more significant updates than Total War Warhammer 3. Just leave that one there. Anyway, combined with the fact it's been a very quiet 6 months with no new content, pretty much everyone is going to be tempted to pick up this DLC, or at least take a look at it, because they've had nothing new, so this is something new, so they're going to be very interested and possibly buy it, even if they wouldn't be that interested normally. And on top of that, Warhammer fans are used to paying out the ass for, well, basically everything, and it's pretty much guaranteed that this DLC is going to sell just fine, no matter what price they pick. So by now, you're probably wondering what all this is leading to, and if I'm ever going to get to the point of this video, so allow me to make my closing argument. The cost of the DLC has gone up, despite the content being lowered, because capitalism is bad, like if you agree. In all seriousness, I don't want this 25% increase to apply to all DLC packs in future, because that adds up to a ton of cash over the course of the game's lifecycle. Now, I'm especially not happy with this price increase if we're getting less content in every pack. Think about it, if this DLC does really well with only 3 Lords, then they'll think in future, oh, well, we can get away with doing 3 Lords for every other race pack that we do, and then we can charge more money for the Lord packs, maybe even go down to 1 Lord per Lord pack, which would be utterly insane. I can't really see them doing that because you can't really do the cool naming convention, but you can see what I'm getting at. If they can get away with doing less and charging more for it, then why wouldn't they do that? Because, from a business perspective, that's exactly what you want to do. You want to sell the least possible for the highest possible price. Either way, no matter what you think, you should vote with your wallets. If you see this DLC coming out and it looks like it's worth the price to you, then pick it up. It's your money. I'm not your dad. I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't spend your own money on. I'll of course put out a review of my honest thoughts as soon as I can, and I'll for sure be referencing this video and the points made in it when I'm weighing up if it is worth the actual price. And if I play it and it is worth the price of 3 totally different Lords and the Legendary Hero is amazing and adds tons of new in-depth gameplay, then I'll be pleasantly surprised and give it the thumbs up. But we'll just have to wait and see, because, as I said, I ain't got access to it yet. I can't play it, so I can't make a review about it. So yeah, if you're someone at CA and you've made it to the end, hopefully you don't want to kill me too much. As I said, this is all public information. This is nothing that I've been leaked from anyone. It's all public stuff that I found on Google, or obviously just the news. I obviously keep up to date with the Warhammer news because, it's kind of my job. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below of this price increase, of the points made in this video, and I will see you in the next one. Also, probably no video on Monday, because I'm going away on the 1st, so I kind of need to prepare content for while I'm away. And we've got some other stuff coming up for the Chaos Dwarves launch. So yeah, hopefully I can get all that done. And there is plenty of content for you while I'm away. If not, I'm going to cry. All right, see you folks.